Good morning, guys, and welcome to Gardening Time. Today I'm going to give you guys a tour of what projects I've gotten done in the past week and what projects I'm going to also be working on within the next couple of days here, just to give you guys a bit of an update. So we'll start right here in this front bed. And I've got a couple of things that I need to do out of this bed. There are a couple of phlox that are growing up. These are growing from, I think they're growing from seed, because I planted some phlox in this bed a few years back and decided to take it out because it was kind of taking over and it was getting a little too tall for this bed. So I pulled it out, and ever since I pulled it out, every year it seems like I get a couple of babies that spring up. So I'm going to go ahead and replant these. There's two of them in here. There's one right here, and then there's another one farther down in here. I'm going to dig those up and replant those in the west side, and because I'm trying to establish a larger swath of phlox in that bed. So I'm going to put those in there, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to plant. There's actually two separate rose plants in this pot. I started these roses from clippings from a rose that I have in the front bed, and I was successfully able to root them and get them to root in. I did that I took the clippings last November, and so they've been in soil ever since that time, and they have rooted in and are doing well enough that I feel it's time to go ahead and get them planted. I'm going to plant them right in here on either side of this rose bush here, and basically I'm going to make it so that the impact of this rose bush is more significant in this area. So I'll have two rose bushes on either side of that one. So it'll be equivalent of 3 rose bushes in the center of this bed, which I think will be really nice. And the other cool thing about rooting in 2 more of these babies, if by chance one of them dies, I'll always have others that I'll be able to get cuttings from and do the same process again from. So hopefully I'll always have at least a couple of these rose bushes in my garden, because I love this rose bush. Okay, I also wanted to show you guys, these are pink dandelions. I got these seeds off of Baker's Creek, and right now this plant is in full bloom, and I just really think they're a beautiful flower. They're also quite tasty. They're sweeter than the American yellow dandelion, as well as the leaves. The leaves are not quite as bitter as the yellow dandelion leaves are as well, and there's a lot of health benefits to eating dandelions. They have a lot of vitamins, and they're just really good for your system. But at any rate, I just wanted to show you my pink dandelions in full bloom. Okay. The other thing we got done is I planted up a lot of my pots. So in this pot here, I have a peppermint balsam, and I started these from seed. I got the seeds off of Baker's Creek, and I'm hoping they do well here. They're a plant that likes partial shade, and this is the front of our house, and right now it's getting the most sun, but in the morning time it's the house kind of shades this area, and as well as in the afternoon it won't get as much direct sun either. I planted up our 2 front pots, and what I have in here is I've got some verbena, amethyst sparkles and whiteout, as well as some cannas that are growing in the center. I thought that would be a pretty mix. And I've got those, the same thing going on the other side as well. I repotted up some violas. These were overwintered in a pot from last year, and so I just stuck them in this pot here, and they're just looking really pretty. I planted up a blue star juniper in this pot here. I thought that would be a nice evergreen interest in this pot, so it'll be like a 4-season type of interest in this pot. And it'll grow and it'll fill out. And once it gets too big for this pot in a few years, I'll just pop it out and put it somewhere in the garden. Okay, I've got a hawthorn plant that I grew from seed. I've got to get that one planted in the garden. And next to it is my, that's a chocolate mint. Right there. I've had that in that pot for several years now. And right next to it is a black goji. And this goji I grew from seed. It was the only one I was successfully able to grow. And I've tried growing these a couple of times, and this is the only one so far, and it looks like it needs some water. I need to give it some water this morning. So I need to get on that. Okay, over here you could see I've got our tomato plants out. They're only going to be out here for about an hour or so. This is their first day being outside. I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow, bring them out for probably a couple of hours. And then this weekend, these are going to be going into our garden beds. And in these pots, I have one on either side of the garage doors, as well as a urn in the center of our garage doors. In these I've got the begonias, and these are the dark leaf varieties. I overwintered these as well, and I love these begonias because they grow in both sun and shade, varying conditions, and this is one of the only plants, because the other side of our garage, which I'll show you, gets a lot more sun than this side does. And so it's always been a task for me to find a matching plant to put in both of these urns, all three of the pots in front of our garage, and find something that matches and that grows in all three. And this is one of the few that I found that does that, and it also overwinters extremely well. Basically taking cuttings, putting those in water, letting those roots, and then growing new plants from that. It was super easy to do that with, and in fact this year I've got several extra starts of it that I'm going to have to find places to put in. Okay, this next area here is our berry bed, which runs along the fence line to our raised vegetable beds. And I dug up one of the fig trees. I have two of them. There's another one here. And they are both coming back. There is green at the very base of these, but all of the stems, the tall stems, all of those have died. All the branches have died. So I have to cut everything basically back down to the ground and start again. Now, what my plans is that I'm going to put these in pots, large pots, and I will be overwintering these in our garage. To hopefully have better success at the plants hanging on to their branches, because the only reason I'm growing these is basically for their fruit. And if they have to start all the way from ground zero every year, I don't think I'm going to be getting as much fruit as I would if I was to overwinter these in the garage. So that's what I'm going to give. I'm going to give that a shot and see how they do. Okay, I went ahead and I popped in a new blueberry bush for us. This one is called the Duke, and it's already budded up and looks really well. I overwintered this last year. I got it on clearance last fall and overwintered it in our raised vegetable bed, and it is doing really good. It seems to really be enjoying its new home. And these tags that I got, to label our blueberry plants. Got these off of Amazon. I really like them. They're made of slate, solid slate, and they have these little metal hooks that you hang them on, and they come with pens that are permanent, basically permanent markers. And I think they really stand out, and you're able to easily enough see what all the varieties of blueberries are that we have growing. And we've got quite a few. Okay, the other thing that I have done is I've planted kale, broccoli, lettuce, and spinach. And this is our newest bed that we made. Actually, we built this last spring. And they're doing pretty good. Everything seems to be doing okay. I planted tiny little plugs, so I wasn't sure if they would all survive. But so far, most of them have survived and are doing quite well. Okay, this is going to be a project that I'm going to have to do within the next couple of days. This is a blue spruce, and this is going to get planted on the east-south corner of our property. So I've already got a spot, a location for it, but I'm going to have to get it out of this half barrel and get it out there. So that's going to be a task. And then I still have to plant up, these are the poodle cut blue junipers that I got a number of years back to go in front of my husband's shop. And I still have to plant up the bases of them. I have some amethyst verbena and some whiteout verbena, as well as some variegated vinca that I'm going to be growing in the bottom of the beds. Okay, this is the area that we're going to be putting our 2 beehives in. We're getting our bees actually this evening, Thursday evening. We're going to go pick up the 2 nukes and bring them home, and then we're going to be installing them Friday morning in their new hives. So we had to clear out a lot of brush and weeds and such, put cardboard down, a thick layer of mulch. My husband leveled out the 2 hive stands that he actually built these from steel, and he put bricks down at the bases of all of them and leveled everything out nicely. And so yeah, so this area is looking really good. Excited to see the bees come in. Okay, this is the newest member of our property in terms of our trees. This is a green spire linden tree. So I've wanted a green spire. Ironically, I've wanted one for a couple of years now. And what finally cemented the deal in us finally going out and getting one was my husband learned that lindens, they flower in the spring, early summer, and bees love the pollen from linden, or they're also called basswood trees. And these trees get quite large. I think between 40 to 50 feet tall, and in terms of width, they can get up to 20 feet in width. So they can become very large trees, but in terms of food for honeybees, they're fantastic. So if you have honeybees and you have the property for such a size tree, I would highly recommend looking into a linwood, or it's also called a basswood tree. And this variety is called a green spire. And I put this one in with my husband's help last night. You could see our dog Lily Rose there. Gives you a perspective of the scale of the tree. So it was a decent sized tree. I would say that's probably about 10 feet tall. Hoping that one does well I hope it likes its area that it's at. It's going to get plenty of sun. And the spruce tree is going to go right here to wrap up this corner of the property. So basically it's going to, hopefully once the spruce and the linden trees start to really fill out, it's going to cover this section, which is one of the only open sections we have that exposes the highway behind us. Okay, this is a section of the west side garden. This is going into the newest section that we just cleared. And all of these plants are plants that I purchased on clearance at the end of the year last year, and I overwintered them in our garden beds. And so I kind of have them splayed out. Well, these ones in front, I have to, these are not going to be in the locations where I'm going to plant them. I just kind of moved them out of the way so I could plant the plants in the back here. So I have the purple volcano salvia that's going to be growing up here in the towards the back. Has beautiful purple foliage and flowers that the honeybees and other pollinators love. And that one grows to a height of 18 to 24 inches. And then I have some rose marvel salvia growing along just in the front of this container here. This container, I put this out here. It's the bottom of a small water fountain that basically was not working, and I am using it to grow mint in, because I didn't want to put mint in the ground because of how evasive or invasive it can be in terms of spreading. And so I'm using this planter, because it's a pretty substantial size planter, to grow some mint in, so I can have some mint out here in this garden as well. And so I have some also some smaller growing salvia here that I'm going to be putting in, and here, this is a Veronica, a blue Veronica that I'm going to be planting in here. So this is the newest section of this garden. You can see I still need to put more mulch down to cover the cardboard. That's a project I'll be working on the next couple of days. These bushes here are a cherry shrub. They actually produce small sour cherries, and you can use those for making juice out of, and that's what our plans are. But right now they're in full flower, and the pollinators are just buzzing all around them, which I love seeing that. This tree here is a smoke bush. I rehomed that from where the location where our hive stands are going to go, because this smoke bush is actually going to grow up and it's going to get quite large. So I thought this would be a good location for it. And on either side of it, I have some viburnums that I rehomed as well, because these are another one. Even though they're very small right now, these are eventually going to grow up and get quite substantial in size. While we're out here in this garden, I wanted to show you these tulips. I'm absolutely in love with these tulips. They have multiple flowers per stem, and they're called Antoinettes. And they are a later blooming. These tulips came out. These were one of the last tulips to come out in our garden bed. And I love them. I love their color. Some of them, as they start to get older, the edges turn into this beautiful pink, dark pink color. And I just think they're so pretty. It's just like a little spot of cheerfulness in the garden. And just above that, we have my Korean dwarf lilac bush, and that is getting ready to explode with blooms. Now, I transplanted this last spring, and it overwintered and has done just fine in its new location. Seems to really be enjoying it. So I'm glad I was able to save this. Okay, we're on the west side of our house, and I wanted to show you these. I have 5 pots of these hibiscus. No, these aren't hibiscus, these are Rose of Sharon. And there's another one right back here. And these I actually grew from seed from, I have a pink chiffon Rose of Sharon, and I was able to gather some seeds off of it last fall and planted those, and they grew. And so these have been overwintered inside, and I had them all in one pot except for one I had in its own little pot. But so what I did was, because they were getting quite large for their containers, so I ended up repotting them all into their own separate containers. And I'm probably going to keep them in these containers for another year, and then next year I'll be planting these out. So it'll be nice because I love these Rose of Sharons. They're absolutely beautiful. Okay, this is the shade garden along the west side, and I wanted to stop and show you our sweet woodruff, or it's also known as woodland phlox, is in full bloom right now and looking beautiful. I couldn't be happier with this plant. I got a lot of these actually on clearance. I got for the year before last, I got, I think 3 or 4 of them, and then last year I was able to get a few more. So it's nice because I'm going to have a nice drift of this in this garden bed, and it really seems to really like this area, which gets dappled sunlight. Okay, this is a section of the shade garden that I just started to plant up. This is a variegated bugleweed that will spread out. I also started several babies from this that I have growing. So I'm going to actually have a nice drift of this along the front edge of this border bed. And just behind that, I have Jacob's Ladder. And then just behind that, I have 2 purple leafed heucherellas. And I can't remember the name of this plant right here, but this is a variegated leaf, which I thought would be really pretty. So you've got the dark purple here, you're going to have the variegated yellow and green leaf here, and then the Jacob ladder here, which almost looks kind of like the leaves kind of remind me of like a fern. And then the variegation of this bugleweed here in front. I thought that would be a really pretty combination. And then right next to it, I have 2 corabels that I'm going to put in the ground here, which I thought would be really nice. So this whole area, once it starts to fill out, this whole area is going to look, I think, really pretty in terms of leaf color and the different variety of leaves in this bed. It'll be really nice. So just to kind of give you a little pan of this garden bed, everything's starting to come in. My hostas are all coming in, and I think this garden bed is really starting to shape up in terms of getting the fullness of plants, as well as getting some interesting leaf colors and textures in this bed. I think it's really starting to shape up and look really nice. Okay guys, that is going to do it for me. I've got watering to do. I've got, as you can see, I got tons of planting new plants to put in the ground, and this is just a crazy time of year for us. Oh my goodness. Anyhow, you guys, I hope you're having a wonderful and blessed day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.